the old man with, what is it? We were talking the other day, and yeah, he was just talking about like how like and different blessings like come through, like the unexpected like ways that blessings are like delivered and stuff, how it comes in disguises and things. And yeah, I was sort of thinking after he left, um, and I was ashamed that I didn't think of it when he was here too and mention it, but it was like, it probably in a way, Jay, it was probably the biggest blessing that he got fucking taken away when he did. Like, it, like I had enough of my life with him, like ins and outs. He was in and out for the first like 7 8 years, like in and out of jail and stuff. And yeah, I had like heaps of good memories of him as a kid and shit. And then yeah, when I was 8, like sort of going into that real crucial stage of like growing up and sort of seeing where I was gonna go as like a man in that. He got arrested for that, like fucking for his longest leg, and then yeah, got out when I was 18, and I was already my own like person, and so I got to like grow without being too much in his shadow in that, and because like at the same time he would have
I like his
like you know
brother.
or the a little bit yeah, I guess so
Yeah.
yeah, G, but instead of like in a negative light, because my uncle, I guess he was so over all of the stuff that happened to my dad, like he all the negativity was brought back on my uncle. Like every time he'd go out, he'd sort of hear stories like, "Oh, your brother this, your brother that. He's such a fucking nasty cunt, like this, that," and seeing how fractured like his family relationship was, it really like hurt my uncle, and so that's why he didn't like go. He didn't go that way, that the same way that my dad did. He went the complete opposite, so he could sort of get away from all of that. And it's like, oh well, if I can get out of my bro's shadows, the easiest way will be to fucking be the exact opposite of him and go be a cop, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Joe, like having the old man sort of gone throughout those like adolescent and then like teenage years was probably yeah good for me, because otherwise I probably would have ended up like don't know where I could have ended up in the mob or whatever had those influences and stuff with the old man still around in that.
I
And
mean,
it's like,
like, well, here's the thing. What was it like when you grew up with him? Before was it? So, like, what kind
oh,
of?
wearing bandanas all the time, Joe. I was like fucking wearing leather vests everywhere, fucking
Yeah.
cigar this, cigar that, like
But
rah
what
rah
did your
rah.
dad encourage it?
Yeah, G, hard out. Oh, well,
Uh,
like, so it's hard to, like, I don't know if it was in a sense of, like, nah, yeah, definitely, so, growing up in the mob, like, you see all of the kids are kind of doing that, G.
yeah.
Yeah, but
So, do you think it's just because the kids are doing it that you're part of it?
nah, nah, so I think it's so ingrained in, like, the mob, G, that, like, yeah, they just raise their children being little mobsters as well. Because, like, all my little cousins were like that, G, like, fucking,
Yeah.
Greco's kids and stuff. They were all,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
quite
You
hard
see
out.
it. You see when you go see them.
Yeah, Jay. Yeah,
It's
uh,
and I think that's the hardest part too. Like, yeah, you are right. Dad going away, you would have to fend for yourself with all of the skills that you have been given by your dad.
yeah, Jay. Because like I had them in that around when I was younger and stuff. And yeah, I always have like stories from my nan and shit. Like, oh, yeah, your dad would pull up in this big red car, and then I'd be there in the passenger seat with like have a big bandana on and leather vest and shit. Just like it's just funny like to have heard those all the time and that when I was like growing up and shit. And not really remembering it. Like I remember a few of the instances in there, and I remember like heaps of times. Yeah, like every day, like my dad would put the like dotted bandana colours on your head and that, and tie them on my head and stuff when I was younger and shit. And I remember running around and like fucking cigar uncle this, cigar uncle, like to all my uncles and that. And one day I was about 5, and dad went to jail, and then mum decided she wanted to move up to Auckland with my auntie. And um, when I was younger, yeah, my dad he said, yeah, every time you see your uncles, you say cigar uncle. And fucking we got up to my auntie's house, and my uncle comes down, and my uncle's straight as G, like straight as. His brother's actually a black power,
Yeah.
and yeah, I get out of the car, and I'm like, cigar uncle. And my uncle's like, oh hey, we don't do that around here, boy. I was like, oh, all right. Like, because it's just so oblivious to like fucking what it was,
Yeah.
but it was just a greeting to me. Like when I was that young, bro, it was like, yeah, quite a hard case. Um, And no, I always remember that, yeah, and pretty much my mum reckoned, yeah, pretty much from there, I stopped, like, doing it because friggin' dad wasn't around all the time to tell me to keep doing it, and I lived with my uncle who was, like, quite straight, and he was quite a really good role
So
model in that.
yeah, well that's
Yeah.
another thing too. Having those role models there that puts them in. When I was talking to your dad, his perceptions of when I was talking to him was that he wasn't really into doing that with you in a sense.
Yeah, nah, now he's, it's changed a bit, yeah, G, since, like, since he's been out, and, like, now I guess because I am my own person, but it was, yeah, I do remember just being, like, hanging around the mong mobs all the time and shit and being at the pad and stuff. But that's just things that came with being
In
the
that
son of
environment,
a
yeah.
mobster, like,
A renowned mobster too.
yeah, well, because,
Yeah,
like, and
there is a
essentially
difference.
all of his mates that he'd hang out with were just mobsters, and,
Yeah.
like, if you take that away, like, if everyone's dad's got mates, usually, and you just grow up with them, and so
Yeah.
it's just his mates just happen to have fucking tattoos on their faces and fucking patches and shit. But yeah, no, it's like, mum had quite a big influence on it because obviously, like, yeah, she didn't want me to be like, end up in
Dad.
jail like the old man and all of that. But yeah, I guess having him gone for like so long, I got to like pick and choose my role models and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like, yeah, my uncle Waipara has a real good like influence in that on my life and shit. And then as I was growing up in that, and then like we moved away from my auntie's and his place, and we moved back down to Hastings and that when Dad got out of jail again, and he was out for can't exactly remember. I think it would have been maybe just over a year or something, and then that's when he went back to jail for his big leg and that. But like, yeah, I remember fucking what is it at the time, like just watching Dragon Ball Z all the time and shit, G, and just yeah, always just remembering like fucking like the influences like from like TV shows and like comic books and like of superheroes and shit, G, always like trying to do the right thing and stuff. And so like those were the like role models that I sort of picked and like fucking chose to like
It's kind of weird though,
thing.
because like when I was doing Dragon Ball Z and all that, I was in prison.
Yeah, well, he was too, Jay. He would watch Dragon Ball Z
Yeah.
in jail, and he would ring me, and he'd be like, "Oh, did you watch Dragon Ball Z today, son?"
Yeah.
And he'd watch it just to have something else to talk with me about. Jay, it was quite hard case, eh? Like,
But that's yeah, that's a man wanting to be a dad.
nah, Jay, and that was like one of the biggest things around it as well. Like, he'd always stay in contact with us, Jay, and so like. I can remember when, so like, cell phones and shit, you weren't allowed them in jail and that, but remember
Still not.
back then, fucking, they had free texting in the weekend, G? Yeah, every weekend, G, he'd get a phone and, I'll grab mum's phone, mum's old Nokia or whatever, and would just be texting all weekend, G, he'd just be texting me and fucking shit, and that was great, so like, throughout, like, I remember probably from like, age of like 10 to like fucking 12, 13, G, he always had a cell phone and would always be like texting because those free text weekend shit, that was insane. And then he'd get a phone card and shit, and he'd always call us and keep in touch with us and that, G. And for the longest time, he just had the same SIM card in jail, and so like I just knew that number off by heart, and every time, G, I just text it every now and then and fucking. Sometimes it might be like a month or so where he didn't have the cell phone, or like, he might be on lockdown in jail or whatever, G. And then, boom, a couple months later, another text and shit, G. And then we'll be in contact for like a decent few weeks and that.
Like the questions that you ask him, were they questions about life and how to resolve things, or were they just
Not. I don't really get time to. So I don't really have the thought of asking him those kind of things. I guess at those ages.
because your dad's quite really really intelligent.
Yeah, Jay, we'd just have like conversations and stuff, and he'd always pass on like wisdom just in conversation, and that where he kind of would, I guess, steer some of the conversation in a direction where it would like advice would almost just pour out rather than like me having to like pick it out, G.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, because like there was very rarely a time where I've gone to my dad and asked him something that I've been like concerned or asked him a question for something that I couldn't figure out because he hasn't already given me that information through a conversation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jay. Like, he was just very wise with the way he would
Approach the
approach
situation.
things, yeah, Jay.
Yeah.
And
You wouldn't-
there was always a lesson like within his
Yeah.
conversations as well, Jay. Like, yeah, he had always had and it was good too because it would never come from like a
Telling me off or anything like that.
yeah, not like a
Lecture.
lecturing way, Jay.
Yeah.
It would always be like so he'd reference the Bible a bit, or he'll often reference things that had happened out in his life that were relevant sort of to times that I was going through, I guess. And it's quite funny reflecting on some of those things. Like, he'll talk about when he was a teenager, and then I'd look back on when I was a teenager, and like half the shit I did, like, not nowhere near as like
Ruthless as well.
not ruthless, but not as rough as the stuff he had to go through. Like, I feel like I think I went through some shit.
Yeah.
And then he talks about stuff that happened to him.
Like if someone from this
Even
era
just
went through that, it'd be like
very eye opening. Very
Yeah,
a lot
it'd
of
be
people these days wouldn't be able to heck with a lot of those things
No.
because I guess like back then, like communication and everything was so limited. There was no cell phones. You didn't have it in your pocket. So once you kind of like left somewhere, no one could really get in contact with you
Until
if you
you
didn't want
reached
them
destination.
to. If you got somewhere and
And then you say, hey, when you get home, call me.
and that was it really.
8
And
p.m. home.
so throughout this whole like late 80s, early 90s, Dad was out on his own, sort of just doing fucking trying to find his dad really. And yeah, bro. And yes, I guess.
You know when me and your dad talk, and there's a lot of common ground in what we're talking about because of the environments that we've both lived in. How do you feel like when you listen to the conversations? Does it make it hard because you haven't done time or anything to...
A little bit, but I guess like the one thing that I guess is a little bit selfish is always just like, yeah, I just always think like when I do hear Dad talking about it, it's like fuck, I've never had to go through anything like that. Like even just the way that the community itself is run, like in jail is like just way different. I guess, and so through his stories and that, and then also just being in the jail, visiting him like a lot throughout my life, I sort of saw a lot, and then there's a lot more media around it and things like that, like World's Hardest Prisons type of shits and that, and you kind of watch a few of those, and then you sort of get an idea from those guys that fucking prisons is almost the same everywhere. Like there might be a few differences, a number of differences, but
yes and no. Like when talking to him about racism and the southern jails, that's pretty true. Like in America and that, or even in England and that, there is a real, you're brown, you stick with your race, you're white, you stick with your race. But up here, no, it's different. Yeah, you're Māori, you stick with whatever is close to you, but you're not Māori with everybody else.
Yeah, so
whereas
what
Polynesians, they don't care what island you're from.
Yeah.
Right, there's a unity within there. They don't have a, you know what I mean? But with Māori are very separatist.
Yeah.
Like you stick to your gangs, or you stick to your family. But there's actually no real unity within that, unless it's against the crown. If you're propping, you're props. You know what I mean? But whereas down south it's white versus brown. Yeah, you know what I mean? There's even like I was telling you before, where the mob and the blacks and that, they were all trained in the yard in the mornings, and that was our routine, and that was because it was a brown versus white, and the white boys, they would go into the yard and they'll do the same thing, and everyone's training for war. Because like you got 90 men in a unit at one time, and then it's pretty much 50-50. So when you're having a war, a race war, you got two ends of the thing, and everyone's stood up. You know what I mean? Whereas up here, nah, it's real weird.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. I guess like yeah, here yeah there'll be like the nuances between all the jails and stuff like that as well,
Yeah.
and stuff. But what I sort of gathered from just like those documentaries and just hearing from those things that like it's sort of like there's a small like not like almost like a class system, but you'll have your top guys sort of like running the jails.
Oh,
And
right,
that,
it's
and then,
politics. It's politics.
yeah, political.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Like yeah, so
Real political.
and then
Like, you can't do anything without it. I remember when they did a hostage down at Christchurch prison.
mm,
Bro, I got into the unit. I just finished doing pound punishment, CCs, so confinement, and coming to the unit, and they were saying, "Oh no, you got to leave the unit." I says, "Why is that?" I says, "Oh, blah, blah, you're charged." I said, "Oh yeah, cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my cell. I'm going to snap my broomstick, and we're going to go.
Yeah.
Like, I've got no problems just going toe to toe." Because you got people in here that are worse at things than me,
yeah,
and then you want to turn around and think. What I hadn't realised is that we're going to have a hostage siege right now, and we don't want your behaviour because I was mischievous.
yeah,
So having someone like myself that's ADHD and mischievous is not a good thing because it causes, I mean, like people getting stabbed and people getting tattooed and all that sort of stuff, and like people get locked up, and and then a couple of other shot callers, bro, got moved to a different prison.
yeah, because they were deemed as the ones that
Oh no, he just wanted to get out of there
Oh,
because he was a lifer and he didn't want to get caught into it.
with that shit.
Yeah, so he asked to be transferred down south while they're doing the hostage siege.
Mm.
So at some level, even the prison guards knows what's going on.
Yeah, because you'd also have those sort of prison guards that are a little bit in on it or a little bit like fucking like to help facilitate shit and things like that.
Yeah, but like it's like and they took 5 prison guards hostage. One of them was a female, and bro,
Where was that?
God's blessings.
Perry.
No, this is in Christchurch.
Christchurch. What's that one? Just
it was
Christchurch
used to be
regional.
Paparoa.
Oh yeah.
Paparoa, but it's now it's Christchurch. Christchurch means so.
Oh yeah.
But bro, God was good that day because that lady didn't get raped, and there was a few rapists in that jail. Like they actually, it was very strategic. Yeah, it's the reason why I got kicked out of the unit because I wasn't really strategic. I was, bro, if I'm in, bro, like your business, bro, I'm 100%.
Yeah, Jay. Yeah. I guess that was probably like the harder one to relate with would be like to see what I would do in those type of situations, like in stories that your dad, that dad and yourself have spoken about and things, and like, because I'm quite a like an all in type of person, and so like if I imagine if I was like in a gang that I'd be quite like Dad, G, like just all in, like fucking.
I don't think you would have been in the gang.
Like fucking no, like had I been raised like fully around like the mob
like
and shit,
that,
and had I been in the mob, G, like from whenever,
yeah,
I would have been like G. I think you would have been worse. Yeah, I would have been fucking pretty bad. G. Just the way that I like think about things and approach shit. Yeah.
Well, then you become sort of like untouchable. So
that's the
because
only.
You're dad.
A little bit, yeah, G, and I guess that was one of the big things about growing up as a son, G, was like, there was a lot of.
If someone got angry at you, they can't just go and tell you off. They've got to go see your dad.
A little bit, like, so I got respect from a lot of older mobsters and that because they knew who Dad was and stuff, and then I also was just quite respectful back to them as well.
Yeah.
And I guess because I wasn't in the gang, they didn't fully have that authority over me either as a big homie or whatever, and so I was always quite like I felt quite respected and quite safe whenever I'd be around them. There were a few young ones that like tried to like do shit every now and then. Like there's a couple of times, like I remember one time where some like prospect dude was fucking just he was a bit pissed and he was being all tough and that, and then he tried to step me out, and then one of the other bros come over and was like, "Oh, that's Scudder's son, rah rah," and then he instantly changed his tune, and it kind of it fucking pissed me off, because like Yeah, I was just like, you know, come
Yeah.
on, man, like, you know, at least stand on it. Like, fuck it, if you want to go, like, you know, if you think I'm a dick, let's go. But it was pretty funny, yeah. And like, after that, so he went to shake my hand, and I didn't fucking shake his hand. I was like, no, fuck you. Like, you want to shake my hand now because you know who my dad is. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, Jay. And then the rest of that whole time, I was like, fuck this, and so I ended up like bouncing from there. But yeah, there's a couple other times like that instance had happened,
Yeah.
yeah, Jay, and it was a bit strange, and it was a little bit awkward to deal with. But at the same time, yeah, like had I not been my dad's son, and like you know, because he wasn't the only prospect there. There was like 3 or 4 of them, you know. Yeah, Jay, like you know, they fucking quite easily could have got me, like if I wasn't dad's son at the same
Yeah.
time, if
Fair
I
enough.
said the wrong thing.
Well, not only
So
that, if you beat them up.
yeah, well, yeah, if I beat him
Yeah.
up, his mates are there. Like I think
Yeah.
I think this particular time there was me and 2 of my mates, and yeah,
Yeah.
there was like 4 of them, and we were outside like a fucking party or some shit,
Yeah.
having a fucking smoke or whatever. And yeah, no, yeah, so it's like yeah, quite out of it, but yeah, in that respect, yeah, I would have got a bit more like bit more leniency, I guess, with where I would have been able to step in the gang life as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, being able to relate to a lot of those like prison stories and stuff, like you know, like I've had fights and stuff, but not prison fights, like you know, where it's a little bit, quite a bit. There's a bit more like political stuff riding on it, like you know, you're fighting for like a reason that's probably been organized, but at the same time, like the
Oh,
mentality behind a prison fight versus
bro,
a
people are haters.
yeah,
Let's be honest here. Like, you're in prison, bro. Like, if you don't have respect, yeah, you'll be hated. And there's always somebody there who's gonna hate on you because you're doing better than them in this environment and they're struggling. Like, it's just the reality of the beast, you know. In there, it's very like the demons that go around in prison, bro, is lust, violence, um, rage, pride, arrogance, all, and everyone's, you know what I mean. But there's a code within itself that keeps them at bay. You know what I mean? But there's a time when that pops off,
yeah,
and
yeah,
all the barriers are down, and you've got to go because if you don't commit, so like if a black power among mob in the jail or whatever gang it is, they will. If it's war, they'll pop off.
yeah, hard out.
You know what I mean? Like you can't. You cannot stay on the sideline unless you're a non-member. Yeah, if you're a member, you have to pop off.
Yeah,
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 it's the rules of the game. You know, you can't stand by while your mates get beaten up.
call to
Or
action.
yeah, you're called to action, and you've got to do it. You know what I mean? And like it's hard too because you know being a non-gang member, I've got friends in every single gang, so it really sucks when you see your mates beating each other up over beef or a symbol or a word said wrong. You know what I mean? Or like there's numbers as well too. You know what I mean? Well, who's taking over? Because the thing is the shot caller is about who runs the biggest there or who's got the biggest um, cred, the KP.
Yeah,
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 so what I mean because like if he's a KP, then he's got the negotiation skills in order to tone things down or organise a one out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Out here, you don't there's nothing like that. If I'm walking down the street and someone that remembers me from in prison being bullied to him, he's in his right mind to come and do whatever he wants to because it's paybacks. That's the thing. Like, there's always consequences to your actions, and I feel that a lot of people in their mind when they do things, they don't think clearly about the consequences of if I get caught slipping on the enemy's side,
Yeah.
Pull out a gun and shoot you're dead. You can't come back from death. And the way the world is today and the way that the narcotics are going, it's hard. It makes things 10 times harder because, like if you don't have sleep for however long and you're on crack, and you get into those what is it what's that thing that people get when they don't get enough sleep?
Oh, the scary hours. Just
they start you get it from weed. Oh, what's that?
like paranoid.
Paranoia.
Yeah.
But they get paranoia, but they're bad things happen. Yeah, bad things.
Yeah, Jay, paranoia you can lead to a lot
people
of
see demons, bro. They see demons in other people, bro. But those demons are manifestation in their head, and they're thinking, all this evil thoughts because they're in a bad mindset, and that's the only difference between prison is that the code of conduct in prison is not the same as outside, where it's free game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like they're keeping the like hierarchy in jail as well, because everyone knows that they're in there like in such small confined spaces together, like and you're just there for like
60 men in a unit, or 30 men in a unit if you're in the pods, and that's when it's not doubled up. So there's a lot of men there. There's a lot of testosterone going on. You know what I mean? Everyone's training. Everyone's preparing for a negative outcome.
Yeah.
There's people in there that are going to grow from it and actually educate themselves. They want to get better. They don't want to come back to prison. And then you've got that, well, this is my life. Yeah, because prison is inevitable when a year is committing a crime. If I don't get caught for one thing, I'll get caught for another, and then I've got to go in. And then if I'm not prepared when I go in, then I have to get prepared in remand. Remand is training mode to get in there and get sorted and make sure that you're, mentally and physically ready for whatever comes your way.
I guess like what would be some of the stuff that would like make things pop off in JLG, like just having that like
just a lot.
Oh, so like not just like a small scale fight like pop off like to where people are like doing hostage fucking sieges.
So the hostage siege was because of
conditions. And,
it was to do with sentencing.
Oh yeah, too many
guys getting done for crimes that they didn't commit,
Yep.
and then getting life.